Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, aka the guy who makes breakdowns you can't hold a candle to, and this video we're going to be going over the ending of Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves. The full movie is out worldwide, and in this breakdown we're going to be going over the plot, those final few scenes, and also what we thought of the film.
Oh, we got him now!
There's a big villain who gets introduced here that I think we need to talk about, and after our movie recap we'll go into where I think things will be going with them. I just want to get straight into it, but there will be heavy spoilers from here on out, so if you haven't had a chance to check it out, then check out now. If you enjoy the video, please hit the thumbs up button, make sure you subscribe if you're Chris Pine for more breakdowns from us. Crap puns over with, and with that out of the way, thanks for clicking this. Now let's get into Dungeons and Dragons.
How are we gonna pull this off?
We're gonna need a team.
Okay, so the film stars Chris Pine as Ed Darvis, an ex-Harper turned thief who was jailed after attempting to gain a resurrection tablet to revive his dead wife. In case you aren't up to speed with your Dungeons and Dragons lore, Harpers are basically a secret organisation who dedicate themselves to protecting the Forgotten Realms. Ed was one of their best members who saved several people's lives, always hit the thumbs up button, and managed to capture many a red wizard. However, Ed got greedy, and after taking their treasures, they managed to follow him back home to his wife Zia and their child Kira. Turns out red wizards mark their treasure, but she was able to hide their daughter away before she could be found and killed by the vengeful group of evil magicians. Red wizard blades prevent resurrection, and being unable to save his wife sent Ed into a deep and dark depression. Harpers were supposed to do things out of the goodness of their heart, and had he not been tempted by the treasure, then his life would have taken a different course. However, in the end, he decides to turn his back on gold and treasure, and this is in order to save the people of Neverwinter. Kind of telling the story in a bit of an odd order if I say the end before the middle, so we'll just wait till Jonathan gets here, and then we can start the story. Jonathan's coming. He's coming soon, right, isn't he?
Oh, I got a good feeling about this. Dungeons and Dragons is that classic hero's journey about a ragtag group of misfits where we have to fight dragons and evil wizards in order to save the world.
Anyway, Ed burned the book of the Harper Code upon his wife's funeral pyre, and when doing this he noticed a sapphire dragonfly that comes to represent her throughout the film. Down in his luck, he ended up meeting the exiled barbarian Holger, and together they raised Kira. Now, Holger is a member of the Elk tribe, who are described as being arrogant and ill-tempered pillagers. They had very little friends, and saw mixing with others as a banishable offence. Holger fell in love with Bradley Cooper, who comes up a little short in the movie after having a small cameo. Anyway, out on the road they made allies, including a conman Forge and the sorceress Simon. They also met a mysterious character called Lady Sophina, who we later learn is a red wizard. Now, a lot of their backstories are actually expanded upon in the comic Honor Among Thieves, The Feast of the Moon. This prequel story talks about some of the heists they pulled off, or rather failed to pull off, and if you want to learn more from this world, then I highly recommend you pick it up. As for Sophina, we discover that she's actually an ally to Szass Tam, a powerful lich who works with 8 members of the Council of Zulkirs. Szass Tam is the Zulkir of necromancy, and he wished to raise an army of zombie-like slaves that would do his bidding. A paladin named Zenk was a witness to this when it was first carried out, and he barely managed to escape with his life intact.
We're thieves, but we help the wrong person steal the wrong thing and unleash the greatest evil the world has ever known.
The Red Wizards created an army of the undead.
Sounds lovely.
Quite the opposite.
I know, I was being ironic.
I find irony is a blade that cuts he who wields it most especially.
You're not a lot of fun, are you?
Masquerading as an ally, Sophina got the group to do a job, and they attempted to steal the Tablet of Reawakening, which is when she cast a time dilation spell that held Ed and Holger in place. Now, it was during this that Sophina was enacting her real plan, which was to grab a horn that was necessary for carrying out the spell that turns people into TikTok users. Hey, you having that? It's fine. I think they've all turned off the video by now anyway. Now, Ed and Holger were jailed, which is how we open the movie, and after they managed to escape, we follow as they travel to Neverwinter in order to get Kira back. Ford was tasked with guarding her whilst they were away, and we discover that Sophina had the Lord of the Realm under a spell, which allowed Forge to take over his place. Since then, he's poisoned Kira against her father, and has made him out to be the bad guy, because he just basically wants a kid that he can mold to admire him. Anyway, after they manage to escape execution, the pair team up with Simon once more, and they also meet a tiefling druid who's called Doric. She's the it girl in this movie, and they do an absolutely fantastic one-take scene in which she spies on the castle and makes a break for it while shape-shifting into different animals. It's really stellar stuff, and when talking about this movie to both of my friends, I've described it as being like a fantasy Mission Impossible. There's a ton of personality to it, and a lot of scenes in which they set one thing up, have to divert into another thing, and then go back to the original plan, which then all goes to hell. It's really well written and put together, leading to dynamic action scenes that are filled with humour and charm. It's the most bloody crispine movie you'll ever see, and it primarily centres around the group getting the tools so that they can storm the city during the High Sun Games. Safina has enabled Forge to host the biggest one yet, and this will bring people together from all over the realm that she can convert into puppets. Meanwhile, Forge will make off with all the wealth that the elite bring to the city, and this will become very rich whilst they become very dead. Now they go to a graveyard, which is where they resurrect the dead using spells so that they can ask them 5 questions. This actually plays in the post-credit scene of the movie, with them constantly coming up with loose ends due to most of the soldiers not really seeing what happened because they died before things played out. Sometimes they'll discover this early on and realise that they don't need to ask 5 questions to get what they need, unless they'll just ask arbitrary ones to let the soldiers rest in peace. However, the last one tells them about Zeng, who helped with his passing. The team eventually track him down, but they don't bother asking the rest of the questions to kill this guy off. Now the post-credit scene is just this guy sitting in a grave asking where everyone is, and maybe like in a sequel they can get this guy back as like part of the team. Just don't ask his name or who his favourite YouTube channel is, because we all know it's gonna be.
See you, chump.
Anyways, Zeng sort of takes them on a side quest, which I loved seeing play out, because it's kind of like this meta commentary on NPCs and how they act. Man even walks in a completely straight line, and though he doesn't add much to the story, it's just fun seeing these sort of quests brought to the big screen. He takes them to where he hid the Helmet of Disjunction, and again this is sort of a side quest lava location in which they get some bonuses and have a boss fight. They encounter some of Safina's undead forces, and we also meet a dragon who's being described as Fat Smaug. Anyway, they get out, and using the hither-tither staff and helmet, the group manage to make it inside the castle. However, they're captured, which is when they put themselves forth to enter the games. They manage to break them, escape, and go to leave on Forge's boat with riches, but after seeing Safina's going to transform those in Neverwinter, they decide to take her down. Leads to a brilliant final battle, and in the end the group end up coming out on top. This is because Kira straps a bangle to Safina's wrist that the High Sun Games were using to hamper their abilities. However, Holger is stabbed during this by Safina's blade, meaning that she can't be resurrected using normal means. However, Ed now has his hands on the Tablet of Reawakening, and though he'd like to use it to bring back his wife, he realises that Holger's very much a mother to Kira. She raised her since she was young, and though Ed would love for his wife to be there, he sees that the family Kira needs was right there in front of him all along. He set out to bring Zia back, but in doing this he lost years with his daughter when he and Holger could have just stayed and raised her together. In the end, Forge is locked up, and the group are declared heroes, with the Lord waking up once more and ruling the realm. Forge tries a similar escape plan with Jonathan, but they've introduced some health and safety measures, and the window used at the start is now boarded up. Anyway, there's still a lot of things in play for a sequel, and though nothing's been announced so far, we do have some things that could come into play in the future. When discussing if they had any ideas, the creative team said they didn't want to jinx things, and basically stated,
"When do you start shooting number 2?
Ask us on April 1st.
Yeah, we're very superstitious. We don't like to talk about that kind of stuff, but if we were so lucky, we would love to get back together with this family."
You have the fantasy thought out already.
The fantasy's waiting.
Now the true big bad of Dungeons & Dragons and Among Thieves is Szass Tam. Due to his many appearances in the novels, games, and Baldur's Gate series, we actually know a fair bit about him. Baldur's Gate 2 gets name-dropped several times in the film, and potentially we could feature more aspects of that in further installments. Anyway, Szass was born in the year of the Dark Dawn in 1104 DR. Under the name Tarloth Normander, he started building his allies and puppets, and he would often sponsor groups of people to retrieve magical artifacts for him. These people were killed upon handing them over, and he also obtained a 700-year-old crystal ball which became one of his most prized possessions. This enhanced his abilities, and after killing his mentor, he learned of his ways. Eventually, he carried out his first act of necromancy on him, and this allowed him to bring his teacher back to life. From this point on, he adopted the mind state that nobody should go to waste, and he started putting his plans in place to turn everyone into a zombie.
Oh shit, here we go again.
Succeeding the previous Zulkir of necromancy, he became a powerful wizard, and this was before he turned into a lich. Eventually he became the Regent of Day, but as we see in the movie, he ended up retreating to the shadows. Now this guy is basically a Thanos, and he spent hundreds of years trying to regain his powers and put his plans into place. Should we get another movie, then I definitely think that it would center more around him, and his possible quest for revenge against our heroes. They've just taken out Sophina, and as we saw early on in the movie with Zia, the Red Wizards have a need for vengeance, so I can see him setting other villains on them as well, and what's great about this world is that the movies can have a range of them. For example, this film had antagonists like the Dragon, that I'm not going to body shame anymore, Forge, and so on and so forth. However, you can have your overarching evil threats too, which really adds to it. And that's what I think is the beauty of this movie as well. I had a really good time with it, and in an age where comic book movies are falling flat, it's nice to see that the other genres are crushing it right now and creating entertainment that leaves you wanting more. I think this movie is really well cast, and every actor sinks into the role and just becomes the character rather than you looking at the person who's playing them. It's like a Fast and the Furious Lord of the Rings Game of Thrones crossover that travels the realm, giving us ice-cold locations, luscious countrysides, expansive cities, and lava-filled lairs. The pacing is perfect too, and you're never in one place too long to get bored, with constant new characters and twists keeping you on your toes. I don't think the movie is perfect, and at points it does feel like they're kind of finding their feet in what they want from this world, but I think it's one of those franchises where if they get a second film, they'll absolutely knock it out of the park. Everything works really well in this movie, and I hope that it gets the box office it deserves. I know Dungeons & Dragons is a massive name, but it also somehow feels like the underdog, and I think people should give it a chance. I'm not a massive D&D fan, I have some fun with it on a Friday night, back when I was a kid, before girls, and I think this is, written perfectly to be welcoming to newcomers, whilst also having aspects of it that hardcore fans will love. In the end, this was a really good film, and that's why I'm giving it an 8.5 out of 10. I might tweak that to a 9 after a second watch, but we'll keep it 8.5 for now, and yeah, my recommendation comes with that as well.
But whatever happens, we'll be ready.
What is it exactly that you bring to this?
I'm a planner. I make plans.
You've already made the plan, so...
If the existing plan fails, I make a new plan.
So you make plans that fail?
No.
He also plays the lute.
Not relevant.
Obviously, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, so make sure you comment below and let me know. We are in a competition right now and giving away the Superman 4K box set to 3 subscribers on the 15th of April, and all you have to do to be on the chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on the film. We pick the comments at random on the 15th, and the winners of the last one are on screen right now, so if that's you, then message me on Twitter at Heavy Spoilers. If you want something else to watch, then make sure you check out our breakdown of John Wick, which will be linked on screen right now. That's the other big film out at the moment, so definitely head over there right after this, because there's a lot of things to talk about, especially with that post-credit scene. Out of the way, thanks for sitting through the video. I've been Paul, you've been the best, and you're barred, you're barred from coming back to these videos, You're a bit of a bar job. I'll see you next time, much love.